Getting into a film festival is so freaking hard. But over the past couple years, I've started to figure out why. And that's because I've been a screener for an Oscar qualifying film festival, watching hundreds of narrative, short, and feature film submissions. Now that I've gotten a peek behind the curtain, I don't want to gatekeep those secrets. I want everyone to be a better filmmaker. So today, I'm going to lay out some hard truths that I've learned about the film festival selection process. Now, these are called hard truths for a reason. You might not want to hear them. But this is me giving you an inside look at how the proverbial sausage gets made, and it just might give you a leg up in your own festival run. So let's get started. Hard truth number 1. There are way more films than you realize. Okay, so we always hear about how Sundance has a 1% submission rate and it's so hard to get in, but only when I actually started watching submissions back to back did I start to fully understand just the sheer scale of films that get submitted every year. Disclaimer, I'm not a screener for Sundance, I'm just using that as an example. Think of it like this. How many films have you seen in your entire life? If you're like me and you have a Letterboxd account, it'll tell you. And I've seen about 2,800, almost 3,000. That feels like a lot of films until you realize that Sundance every year receives 15 to 17,000 submissions, and around 4,000 of those are features. So every year, 1,000 more features are submitted to Sundance than I've seen in my entire life. If I had to consider the 3,000 films I've seen and only choose maybe 100 for a spot at a festival screening, I'd be leaving out so many of my favorite films. Now, this might be kind of overwhelming and disheartening, but don't worry, because that brings me to hard truth number 2. Almost all of the films are bad. Now, there's no real easy or nice way to say this, but these are called hard truths for a reason. I was shocked when I started screening films at how many of them are just simply not ready to be screened publicly. So even though there's tens of thousands of films submitted, it's not like you're competing against 10,000 Godfathers. Now, at first, this gave me a huge burst of confidence because I was like, well, surely my films are better than all these ones that I'm seeing. But then, of course, because I am myself, I started to worry. Surely all of these filmmakers believed in their project and believed their project stood out from the crowd. So am I just thinking the same thing? And I can't see that my film is the same poor quality as all of these others? But this is why I started noting all these hard truths in the first place. It gives you a list to pressure test your film against, so that way you can stand out from the crowd. Hard truth number 3, it's not a competition. Think of it like this. If you were to make a playlist for your friend, would you choose your top 15 favorite songs of all time? Or would you choose specific songs that are curated directly for that person? This is what film festivals are doing. They're not choosing just the best. They're actually curating a specific playlist of films for their audience. There's basically 2 buckets a film submission can fall into when we're considering it for a festival. The first bucket is films that are pretty much rejected outright, and this could be for a myriad of reasons, most of which I'm going to address later in this video. And this is the majority of submissions, but the very best of the submissions get put into the second bucket, the films that are actually getting considered. Now, most of these films in the second bucket are still gonna get rejected. But this is not based on the quality of the film, it's based on what they decide to play, what fits with the audience, what fits the cultural moment. Now, as filmmakers, we have pretty much no control over what goes on in the deliberations with the second bucket films. But we do have control over whether our film gets placed in the first or second bucket, aka if it's rejected outright, or if it's good enough to be genuinely considered. The rest of these hard truths are not ways to guarantee you to get selected into a festival. Nobody can give you that. But they are ways to make sure that your film is good enough to not fall into the first bucket, but to be genuinely considered. And that is the best we can do from our end as filmmakers. Hey, it's Jack jumping in. I'm just letting you know that you should subscribe if you like this so far, or if you don't, you just do it anyway. All right, hard truth number 3. You need more than passion. The fact is, I can feel the passion coursing through every single film submission that I watch. But passion alone simply doesn't make a good film. You can't get a film made at all without passion. But to bring it to the next level, you need craft and execution. So if you're really passionate about the project, that's great. That's the starting point. Hard truth number 4, you can tell the quality of a film within about 10 minutes. There's a lot of online debate about whether screeners and film festivals will actually watch your film all the way through every time. And a lot of people, myself included, have overanalyzed the Vimeo statistics to try to deduce which festivals have watched the whole thing, which clicked out early, whatever. But bonus hard truth, Vimeo statistics are not totally accurate, so don't put too much weight into this. We all want to make sure our film is seen in its entirety. But for me, there's basically no oversight of whether I finish a film. I can add my rating and recommendation without finishing it, without even starting it if I'm really crazy. But I don't do that. The thing is, nobody knows and nobody's checking. I personally make every effort to finish all the films, but I have no idea what other screeners do. Even so, the truth is, when a film starts with obvious mistakes like bad cinematography or sound or really cringy acting or clunky dialogue, it is so rare, in fact, it almost never happens for the film to recover and suddenly become really good later. So what I'm trying to say, for feature films, the first 5 or 10 minutes, that's your only chance to earn the trust of the viewer. So you better make sure it is top notch. Hard truth number 5, bad sound will kill your film. Sound is the number one thing I reject films for. And these films could have really high production value otherwise, like crazy sets, really good cinematography, but the sound is just terrible. It happens so much more often than I thought. And I'm telling you, you could be submitting Casablanca. If your sound sucks, it's gonna get rejected. There's no hope for it. Would you rather watch a movie with subpar image quality, maybe some cinematography mistakes, maybe it's not the most professional, but the sound is crisp and clean? Or amazing cinematography, clear picture, and the sound is crap? I know which one I would choose. The fact is, festivals are not going to show films with bad sound because it makes them look bad and unprofessional. So please, I'm begging you, hire good sound people. Or learn to do it yourself. Hard truth number 6, drone shots are not cool anymore. Listen, 10 years ago, drones were freaking amazing. Suddenly, all of us could get helicopter shots for a tiny fraction of the budget. But now that they're everywhere, they're in every movie. I can't tell you how many times I've been watching a film that's shot pretty well with a really consistent, grounded style, and then suddenly there's this random drone shot, and it's always just an establishing shot, or to show them driving, or something like that. It's usually really obviously a different camera quality than what they're actually shooting with, and it's just thrown in there to add production value. But we're at the point where drones are so common, they don't add production value anymore. So unless you're using drones in a really intentional way, which means not for establishing shots, I would avoid using them altogether. Hard truth number 7, good cinematography is not enough to carry your film. Like I said, most of the film submissions I watch are not great. But at the same time, I'd say at least 60 to 70% of them have actually really beautiful cinematography. And I think that's because a lot of early filmmakers really prioritize getting beautiful shots and good cinematography, because that's a way to impress people fast. But there's been so many films with amazingly beautiful cinematography and a story that I just couldn't buy into or was boring that I had to reject. At the same time, there's been films with pretty amateur cinematography that still pulled through with good story, characters, and sound. Which brings me to hard truth number 8. Most film scripts feel like a first draft. There are so many times I'm watching one of these submissions and it has a really cool idea or a really clever concept, but the rest of the film, the execution, the story just isn't quite there yet. I feel like a lot of times filmmakers are so excited to shoot their movie that they rush through the writing process a little bit. Or they think that their first draft is good to go, or even only after 2 or 3 rewrites it's good to go. But the fact is, you need to work on that script until it is perfect. And it'll probably take longer than you thought. But if you're going to spend thousands of dollars on a film, trust me, it's worth it to take that extra 6 months, year to polish a script and make sure it is perfect. This leads right into hard truth number 9. A lot of times it feels like the filmmaker was more compelled to just make a film rather than to tell a story. You can't make a film just because you want to be a filmmaker. You have to be genuinely compelled by the idea and the story. This might require some genuine soul searching. So when you're starting a project, take a moment to really analyze, why are you doing this? If it's to impress your friends, if it's to get into a festival, then you might need to take a step back and wait a moment. because you need to be compelled by the idea of the film itself. That's the only way to make something truly meaningful. And the hard part is you can't force this. You kind of have to wait until an idea comes to you. But if you approach the world with open-mindedness and genuine curiosity about people, it'll come. Hard truth number 10, making a film personal is not enough. Pretty much every film submission that comes across my desk is really obviously from a very personal place. But I hate to say it, that's not enough. It feels like a lot of filmmakers are saying something like, hey, look, this happened to me, instead of actually taking that experience and shaping it into a story. Here's an example. So recently, I was coming home from an international trip, and there was this crazy flight delay that led to a cascade of delays and basically made it so I was stuck in the airport for 24 extra hours. Now, when I told my friends and family about this, they felt bad for me, and they felt my frustration. So maybe that would make a good film, right? It created a genuine emotional experience in people. But that's only because they know me. You watching probably don't care at all that I was stuck in an airport because you don't know me. For me to make that work as a film, I would have to add stakes. I would have to have a genuine emotional arc. And I can just tell a lot of filmmakers have an emotional experience and put that directly into a film and think it will translate to the audience. But it usually takes that a lot of work to shape that into a story that will actually resonate with complete strangers. Hard truth number 11. Films about the creative process are a dime a dozen. Listen, for most filmmakers, the number one source of conflict in their life is their creative struggle, whether that's making it in an industry or proving to your friends or family that you're legit. But because that's the most immediate and accessible conflict for most of us, that's what so many films end up being about. And so they all kind of blend together. You just have to have such a unique take on this to actually stand out. So I would encourage you to see what else is going on in your life. What else could you make a film about? And I guarantee you, as a screener who sees all of these films, it'll stand out a lot more. Hard truth number 12. Short films are often too long and features are often too short. That's kind of contradictory, right? Well, let me explain. I think a lot of filmmakers think, oh, there's not too much difference between an 11 or 13-minute film. It's already short anyway. But the fact is, you need to make every second of that short film count. It comes down to this. Short films are so short that if there's any fluff, any extra things that don't need to be there, any mistakes, it gets magnified much more than a feature because it takes up a bigger percentage of that film's runtime. When a film comes across my desk that's over 20 minutes, I'm immediately getting worried because almost every single time it does not need to be that long. But on the other end, features are often weirdly too short. I'd say almost every feature that I see is under 90 minutes, which is okay. It's understandable. A lot of these feature filmmakers are working on a really tight budget and a shorter film is cheaper to make. However, when a film is like in the 60 to 80 minute range, it starts to feel like it's not a real feature film. I mean, if you were going to a film festival and you wanted to buy a full price ticket but saw that the film was only like 65 minutes, you would have second thoughts. So for feature films, I'd really try and push them to be at least 80 minutes, if not 90. Now, this doesn't mean you should add fluff in that doesn't make sense just to pad the runtime. But from jump, from pre-production, from production, really try and aim for a film that hits that 90-minute mark. It will make it seem a lot more legitimate. Hard truth number 13. Mockumentaries are overdone. I'm telling you, there are so many comedy films that adopt the mockumentary form, and a lot of them just don't do anything with it. It's starting to feel really cliche, really tired. I would only do a mockumentary if I was absolutely sure I was doing something innovative with the form, or if I was using it in an interesting way. But if it's just a crutch to make it easier to shoot or something like that, come on, you can do better. Hard truth number 14, humor is really hard. Now, I feel like there's kind of two polarities to this problem. A lot of the dramatic films I see take themselves way too seriously and would benefit a lot with a little bit of humor, something to just lighten the tone sometimes. Like, even Schindler's List had a few moments that were designed to make the audience laugh. I think you can do it. But at the same time, a lot of the comedy films I see just aren't funny enough. I don't know how to really fix this for people, but I think it just comes down to making sure that people who aren't your friends are laughing at it and being really brutal about if a joke doesn't work. Okay, finally, the last hard truth. Screeners are people too. Yeah, I'm gonna advocate for myself, okay? I feel like online there's a lot of animosity towards screeners and programmers. I get it, we're kind of the bad guys, we have to give out way more rejections than acceptances. But the fact is, most screeners and programmers are not paid at all for what they do. They're doing it for a love of the craft, a love of finding films to share with their community. And a lot of times we're cramming these screenings in the in-between moments of our daily lives. For me, I have to watch the films right when I wake up before work. Although we all want our films to be seen in a theater with no distractions, a pristine environment, the fact is, the films that are really good will still cut through all those distractions and grab me. So I want you to think about this. Is your film undeniable? Is it able to grab somebody's attention even if there's something else going on? And is it something that you would be intrigued enough to devote your full attention to? These are hard questions. I still haven't answered them for myself, but the best we can do is try. So there it is. There's my hard truths. I hope you liked them. I hope you found them helpful. And if you did, or if you didn't, you could subscribe if you want.